Hey guys, it's Beth again. I was here just a little while ago with my September to be written video. I will link that down below if you didn't see it and you want to. You can go ahead and click that button and go on and check that out. And I promised in that video that I would come back at you with my September to be read. And I'm here and I have my books and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to hop right in. The first one I want to talk to you about is written by an author that I have been following and really enjoyed for a long time. Her first series, well, I don't know if it was her first series, but the series I found her on was the Morganville Vampire series, and I really enjoyed it, and I always connected with it, loved her characterizations and her writing style and her voice. And so I was expecting already to have this book be something I really enjoyed, and then it kind of expanded and it became a more sophisticated read and just grabbed me. And I cannot tell you how many feels I have, because there are still, I may tear up a little bit. It is the first in a trilogy, and that is the only thing saving me from being completely destroyed right now. The second book is at the editor. I actually follow her on Twitter and kept pestering her, I guess, until she answered some questions for me about when the book would come out, and that's sometime next year. But until then, you can read Ink and Bone by Rachel Caine. It is the first in the Great Library trilogy, and it basically asks the question, what would have happened if the Great Library at Alexandria did not get destroyed? And the answer is apparently that the Great Library would take over all books, and you wouldn't be allowed to own originals, and there are factions like burners and smugglers, and then there are people who have to take tests, and as kids, like high school students about 16 to 18 years old, they go to Alexandria and learn to become the next librarians and the next army and all of this stuff. And it's about Jess and his movement from being part of a family in London that's not quite what you think they are, all the way to him going to Alexandria, meeting new people, may or may not fall in love, may or may not almost die, may or may not find out some things he probably shouldn't know, etc., etc. So the last book that really made me feel all of the feels that this book just made me feel was probably Harry Potter, and I'm going to say somewhere between 3/4 and all the way through the Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So those of you who know the Harry Potter series, which I'm going to guess is most of you, you understand what happened in the Order of the Phoenix, and you know that that is one of the highest compliments that a Harry Potter fan can pay to somebody who is not J.K. Rowling, or even to somebody who is J.K. Rowling, because if I read works by her and they don't make me feel that amazing, then, you know, why did I read it? Actually, she's a very wonderful author, even when she's not writing Harry Potter, so don't come at me. But this book made me feel all of those feelings, and I really suggest that you go get it. It's a great read. It's very exciting. I love the characters. I love this cover. It's gorgeous. And I love Rachel Caine. She's just awesome. You should go follow her on Twitter, because she has some really fun little pithy things that she says. And you need the book. Go get the book. Get it now. See, here's an up close. Ink and Bone, Rachel Caine, now. Okay, moving on. The next book I have was published in 2009, so it's 6, almost 7 years old, and some of you are going to be really wondering at my sanity for only reading it now. I've had a lot of people suggest it to me over the years who know my reading style and my writing style, and that is Fallen by Lauren Kate. And I love this this cover. It's gorgeous. It intrigues me. It makes me feel kind of a fantasy, sci-fi, thriller thing going on. And the back actually says it's a page-turning thriller and the ultimate love story, so I'm really excited about it, but I don't know much more about it because nobody will tell me what it's about, because they knew I would eventually read it. And I don't like spoilers. No matter how much I beg and get mad at you for not telling me them, it's best to hold to your guns and not spoil me. The really awesome thing about it, along with the fact that it's a book and it looks like it's going to be really good, is that the author Lauren Kate grew up in Dallas, So you can see here it says she grew up in Dallas and went to school in Atlanta and started writing in New York and all that. Well, I was born in Mesquite. Rachel Kane lives in Fort Worth, and then Lauren Kate lived in Dallas where she grew up. So I'm not going to come right out and say that fantasy young adult authors from the Dallas-Fort Worth area are amazing or should all be, millionaires because our books are awesome, or that you should go and buy my book because they're from the same area and write in the same genres as I do. But I am going to link my author page down there with my blog if you want to check me out as well. I am from that area. We all drink the same water, so put two and two together, people. And now that I am through with that shameless plug, I'm going to move on to the next book, which is actually an adult book. It's the only book out of my TBR list that is aimed at adults. I love the authoresses. They are best friends. They've been best friends for a really long time, and I follow them on Twitter and on Facebook. And I won this book in a photo caption contest on Facebook, and that is The Status of All Things by Liz Fitton and Lisa Steinke. And it seems like it's going to be really fun. It was on the best summer reads list and several other lists for books to take to the beach and things like that. Basically, it says Kate is a 35-year-old woman who is obsessed with social media. So when her fiancé Max breaks things off at their rehearsal dinner to be with Kate's close friend and co-worker, no less, she goes straight to Facebook to share it with the world. But something's changed. Suddenly, Kate's real life starts to mirror whatever she writes in her Facebook status. With all the power at her fingertips and heartbroken and confused over why Max left her, Kate goes back in time to rewrite their history. So I don't typically read the adult books as much. I feel like children and young adult books have more imagination, and that's something that I hope I never lose. But they handle a lot of huge topics in these beautiful, imaginative ways that help children and adults kind of deal with these big topics. And then adult books, I don't feel like they have that because they feel like we should not be as imaginative anymore. So hopefully I don't grow up ever, because I don't want to lose my imagination and I don't want to be bogged down with all of the real life nonsense. I would much rather have dragons and unicorns and all of that than have to deal with the other things that are actually going on in the real world. I will say that I do enjoy some of the adult fantasy authors like Kelly Armstrong and Nora Roberts. I really like her stuff. But typically I read middle grade and fantasy, so I'm looking forward to reading kind of a more contemporary love story, because it's not something I typically read. I think the last one I read was probably Claire Cook's Must Love Dogs, which is an amazing book, and I do have that still. And I'm looking forward to picking up the rest of that series eventually, but not anytime soon because I have a lot of books to read right now. And the next one is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. And this one came out a few years ago as well, and I've heard all the hype, and people have been so excited about it, and they've stayed excited about it. And Ransom Riggs, she released the second book in the trilogy last year maybe, I don't remember exactly when, and so it just rehyped everybody and they got all excited. And then the final book in the trilogy comes out in October. So they had this on display at the Hastings. I live an hour and a half from any bookstore, so I went up a couple of weeks ago to a doctor's appointment and wound up getting to stay for a few hours at the Hastings and just wander around. And basically I pet all the books and I smelled all the books, and they had this, and it was on sale, and it was just beautiful. I loved the cover, and I've wanted to read it, and I kept putting it down and coming back, putting it down and coming back, so I finally just picked it up. And the first paragraph is all I've read so far, and it really drew me in, and if this book lives up to the hype, I may love it at least almost as much as Ink and Bone. And then finally, I have N.D. Wilson's 100 Cupboards. The last book in the series was published in 2010, so obviously I am way behind. Let's see, the first book was in 2007, so 8 years ago, 100 Cupboards was published. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I found this book on Amazon and wanted it but did not have the money for it, and I thought I had it on my wish list, and I didn't put it on my wish list, and there was this whole big bunch of things that happened, and I never could remember the author or the title. I tried 101 cupboards, 13 cupboards, 10 cupboards, all sorts of things. Somehow I never just put in 100 cupboards. Seems simple enough, but I did finally find it again about 2 weeks ago, and when I found it, I discovered that it was actually the first in a trilogy, and they had all 3 of them available for a penny a piece plus $3.99 shipping and handling per book. I paid, no lie, including tax and shipping and everything, it was like $12.08 for all 3 of these. Yeah. You see that I have a paperback for the second one. It's a beautiful cover. It's the same cover it would have been on the hardback, and it's all in good condition. However, they did not have a hardback, so I do have the paperback. If you have a hardback or know where I could get one, let me know, because I love to have them all in the same format. And that is the last set of books that I have on my TBR. So if you have any comments or suggestions for me, if you put them down there in the little comment section, I will get back to you just as soon as I can. I love to hear your suggestions or to hear how you feel about books. But if you're going to talk about a book on my TBR, please do not put any spoilers in for me. And I promise to do the same for you if at all possible. All right, thank you guys. I hope y'all have a great one. Bye.